On Wednesday, I went to school. At the beginning of the lesson, a student named John spoke up. I've started to read more, and I feel it's helping my grammar. But I have a problem. When I read, I look up a new word in a dictionary, then continue reading. Sometimes, when I see the same word again only 10 minutes later, I don't remember it and have to look it up again. Can you help me remember words better? Our teacher, Ms. Brown, smiled and said, "That's a great question, John. It's completely normal not to remember a new word immediately. Usually, you need to see a word 5 times before you remember it. Some words, especially verbs, might take 10 or even 15 encounters. When you learn a new word, it goes through 5 phases. Let's go through them. The first phase is when you see the word for the first time and don't know it. You look it up in the dictionary. The second phase is when you see the word again, recognize that you've seen it before, but still don't remember its meaning. So, you look it up again. The third phase is when you see the word and have a feeling about its meaning but aren't sure. For example, you know it might be some kind of object, animal, or verb. The fourth phase is when you know what the word means when you see it, but you can't recall it when you want to say it. At this point, the word is in your passive vocabulary. The fifth and final phase is when you can use the word when you speak. Ms. Brown continued, understanding these phases helps you see why it's not possible to remember a new word the first time you see it. You need to see or hear the word several times and let it go through all the phases until you reach phase 5. Be happy not only when you learn a word perfectly but also when you progress from one phase to another. This means you're getting closer to using the word easily in everyday communication. I found this explanation very interesting. I hadn't realized there were phases to learning new words, but it made sense. I remembered looking up new words and then forgetting them shortly after. I felt stupid for not remembering, but now I know it's okay and part of the process. After school, I went to football practice. Our coach told us there would be a match on Saturday against another school team from Cambridge. He asked me to play for the team, and I was excited and looked forward to the match. The next day at school, another student named Emily asked, "How can I improve my listening skills? What's the best way to do it?" Ms. Brown answered, "Good listening skills are very important for communication. If you don't understand what people are saying, it will be hard to talk to them. There are many materials on the internet to help you. Let's look at what you should listen to. There are 2 types of materials, audio and films. When you listen to audio, you should understand at least 95% of the words. If there are many new words, read the text first if possible. When you practice listening, focus on understanding spoken English, not learning new words. Use materials at your level, like books and simplified English with audio recordings. You can read the book first, then listen to the recording at home or while traveling. Ms. Brown suggested, you can find great books like Robinson Crusoe and The Little Prince in simplified English online. For news, visit sites like News and Levels. These resources are available in 3 levels of English. For films and videos, Start with subtitles so you know what the film is about, then watch without subtitles. If you like the film, watch it more than once to understand more each time. You can also watch documentaries or reality shows, which are easier to understand. Try to listen for at least 30 minutes a day. Focus on what you already understand, even if it's just 10% at the beginning. Be happy with every new sentence you understand. Emily thanked Ms. Brown, saying, "The listening topic is very interesting to me. Now I know what to do to improve my listening." Listening for 30 minutes every day will help a lot. On Friday, we had an interesting conversation in class. Ms. Brown asked us, "What was your first reason to learn English? Do you remember when you started to be really interested in the language?" I raised my hand and said, "I remember when I started to be interested in English. At first, English wasn't my favorite subject. I started learning it in high school, and it was very difficult. I didn't understand the structure of the language. When I finished high school, I was still only a beginner and couldn't speak English well. I believed I would never learn it. But then something happened. I've always liked music, and when I was 20, I started listening to the Beatles. I wanted to understand their songs, so I began translating them. Slowly, I understood more and more. Then I met two ladies from England on a train. We had a simple conversation, and it helped me believe I could learn English. From that moment on, I worked on my English every day and got better and better. Then I decided to go to England to improve my English. Ms. Brown thanked me for sharing my story and said, "Your story shows the importance of motivation. At first, you didn't have motivation. But then you wanted to understand songs, and your motivation helped you succeed." Motivation is very important. When you have it, you can achieve your goals. Without it, it's hard to be successful. Ms. Brown asked the rest of the class about their motivation to learn English. One girl wanted to read historical books in original English, and another student wanted to be a professional tennis coach in England. A woman wanted to work for a big international company and needed English for her job. It was clear that everyone had some kind of motivation to use English in real life. At the end of the lesson, Ms. Brown asked if we liked English. I said, "I didn't like English in high school, but now I like it a lot. I see how useful it is." Ms. Brown replied, "It's easier to learn a language when you like something connected to it, like people, music, culture, or history. If you want to communicate in English, it's good to know 3,000 words or more. If you don't like English, it's harder to practice enough to reach that level." I agreed with Ms. Brown. I now liked not only the Beatles but also my teacher and my boss, who was English. I also enjoyed English humor, making it easier to find time to practice English every day. On Saturday, I played football for my school team. We had some very good players, and we won 3-2. We were all very happy and celebrated our victory. During the next lesson, a student named Tom asked, "You told us that it's good to know 3,000 words. Where can I find these 3,000 words that are the most important to learn?" Ms. Brown replied, You can Google a list of the 3,000 most frequent words in English, but such a list won't help much when you start to learn words from it. You will learn words outside of context, not connected to any story. You might remember them in the short term, but this system only works for basic words like mother, father, apple, or dog, which represents something you can easily imagine. For higher-level words, like appreciate or suppose, you need a different system. Ms. Brown continued, many students use word lists at first, which works up to about 1,000 words. Beyond that, you need to learn words from sentences. Understanding a word in the context of a sentence helps you remember it better. You can still learn words from lists, but there's a limit. For higher-level words, reading is one of the best ways to learn. A great book for beginners is Robinson Crusoe in Simple English. Ms. Brown added, an interesting rule is that every important word will come back into your life until you learn it. This is similar to how we learn our native language. We don't study from lists, we just use the language, and important words keep coming back until we understand them. Tom thanked Ms. Brown and said, this makes sense. I'll focus on reading stories and other texts to learn new words. After school, I went to work. I felt more confident in my English. Most conversations with customers were similar, so I understood them well. My confidence was growing, and I sometimes had longer conversations with customers. Everything was good until something unexpected happened. On Tuesday at work, 2 customers, a husband and wife, came in. The man started speaking to me, but I couldn't understand him at all. He was speaking English, but it sounded very different. I called my boss for help. She spoke to the man and sold him 2 coffees and 2 sandwiches. After they left, I told my boss I was sorry I didn't understand the man. She said it was okay and explained that they were from Scotland. The next day, I told this story to Ms. Brown. I felt stupid for not understanding the customer and doubted my English skills. Ms. Brown reassured me, you're used to English spoken in London, but not to the Scottish accent. Your ears aren't trained for it yet. It's normal. You just need to listen to more Scottish English. Accents vary greatly even within England. She continued, to improve your accent, choose an accent you like and listen to it a lot. For example, if you like the Queen's English, listen to BBC News presenters. If you prefer American English, watch movies or listen to people from the USA. Don't worry about your accent too much, just speak naturally. Ms. Brown suggested, record yourself speaking English, then listen and compare your pronunciation to native speakers. If you notice differences, try to adjust. You don't have to sound exactly like a native speaker. Having a clear, understandable accent is the goal. I found this advice helpful. I decided to listen to more Scottish English to get used to it. I thanked Ms. Brown for her guidance. After school, I went home and found some videos with Scottish English. At first, it was hard to understand, but I knew it would get easier with time. Listening to different accents would improve my overall understanding of English.